Excuse me, deliveries use the side entrance. That's what she said, loud enough for the entire restaurant lobby to hear. I didn't answer. I didn't flinch. I just looked at her, the same way you look at someone trying to lock a door they don't know you hold the keys to. 10 minutes later, that same woman would be suspended. And the restaurant? Rebuilt from the inside out. This wasn't revenge. This was repair. So before we begin, tell me, have you ever been mistaken for less than you are? Because if you have, this story is for you. The wind bit hard as I pulled the collar of my gray wool coat tighter around my neck. Paris in late November was no friend to warmth, especially at 6:45 in the evening. I crossed the cobblestone street toward Maison Foster, the jewel of our culinary empire. Only no one in that building knew that. Not tonight. I wasn't dressed like the owner of a Michelin-starred restaurant chain. No tailored suit, no signature brooch. Just flat black boots, slacks, a navy sweater, and a coat that had seen one too many airport layovers. My hair was pulled back in a low bun, my earrings no larger than pinheads. That was intentional. Everything about tonight was. The front door gleamed like the cover of a French architecture magazine. Frosted glass framed in polished brass, with the Foster crest etched just below eye level. I reached out to push it open, and before I could step over the threshold, a voice cut through the lobby air like a knife. Excuse me, deliveries use the side entrance. The sentence landed with the grace of a slap. The hostess who'd spoken, blonde, early 30s, immaculate makeup, didn't blink. She didn't smile. She didn't even look surprised to see me standing there. Her name tag read Miss Eliza. Her posture, military level straight behind a white marble reception stand. I paused, blinking once. I'm here for a reservation, I said, voice steady. She raised an eyebrow. For whom? C. Mason, I replied. She didn't type, didn't check the screen. She gave a slow glance down my coat, boots, then back up to my face. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Patrons enter through here, she said, motioning to the space behind me. But you're clearly part of the evening service team. If you're here for kitchen support, the side door is just past the alley. There it was. The moment. Not an accident. Not confusion. A conclusion. One made without a second's pause. I opened my mouth, then closed it again. Somewhere behind me, a waiter carried a tray of wine glasses across the floor. A couple near the bar glanced over, then quickly returned to their drinks. No one intervened. No one questioned. I could feel my heart slow, not quicken. Not because I was calm, but because this wasn't new. Before I could say anything more, another voice entered the scene, soft, hesitant. Miss Eliza, the man said, walking from a nearby hallway. He wore a black jacket with a small earpiece, a security team member probably. His name badge read Marcus. He was tall, well-built, and black. His eyes landed on me, widened just slightly, then quickly shifted back to Eliza. What's going on? He asked. She's trying to enter through the guest entrance, Eliza replied coolly. Obviously misplaced. Marcus's eyes flicked toward me again. Recognition flashed, but it was so quick I almost missed it. He knew. He knew exactly who I was, but he said nothing. His jaw tightened, and he looked away. I'll handle it, he said, almost too quickly. Eliza gave a tight smile and returned to the reservation screen she hadn't looked at once. I turned to Marcus. Thank you, I said, voice quiet. He nodded, but the look in his eyes was heavier than guilt. It was fear. Fear of what silence costs when truth is too expensive. I walked away, not toward the alley she had so generously pointed out, but out the front door, back into the Paris night where my breath fogged in the air. I didn't cry. I didn't tremble. I reached into my coat pocket, pulled out my phone, and tapped twice. The screen unlocked to a secure folder. Inside, 6 guest reports, all filed within the last 7 months. All from this location. All citing phrases like, made to feel unwelcome, spoke to me like I was staff, or refused to check reservation despite confirmation. I had flagged them personally, sent quiet inquiries through HR, asked for retraining to be scheduled. The reports came back marked resolved. Clearly, they weren't. I scrolled through the photos in the folder. One of them showed a young black couple seated at the far corner of the dining room, despite requesting a center window table for their anniversary. Another showed an elderly Nigerian professor being asked to present a second ID when no one else at the bar had. This wasn't about me. It never was. But tonight, it had become mine to fix. Back inside the lobby, Eliza smoothed her blazer and returned to her post. She didn't know that the woman she'd just dismissed was the founder, majority shareholder, and chairwoman of the Foster Culinary Group, owner of Maison Foster and 11 other establishments across Europe and North America. She didn't know that I'd once peeled garlic in the basement kitchen of this very building, dreaming of the day I'd earn a seat at the table. That I'd bought this restaurant not just to own it, but to protect others like me from being told they didn't belong. She thought I was kitchen staff, and maybe that's exactly what I needed her to believe. Because 10 minutes from now, this building wouldn't know what hit it. The wind sliced sharper now. Paris didn't just feel cold, it felt intentional. Like the air itself was trying to remind me that even here, surrounded by polished marble and centuries of art, I could still be made to feel invisible. I crossed the street and ducked into a quiet corner of the plaza across from the restaurant. The cafe I used to sneak into during my internship was still there, Le Coin Bleu. Still the same blue-striped awning, same scent of burnt espresso and buttery croissants. But tonight, I wasn't here for nostalgia. I sat on the iron bench beneath a flickering street lamp and opened my laptop. The glow lit my face in the dark, but I didn't care. My fingers moved with the kind of muscle memory that comes from disappointment you've prepared for. Folder. Maison Foster. Internal guest reports. Paris location. Password protected. Encrypted. Confidential. There they were. 5 recent complaints, all eerily familiar. Case 1874. Black woman denied reservation confirmation. Told she was mistaken and advised to double-check her booking. Case 1892. South Asian couple seated near kitchen despite requesting terrace view. Case 1901. Afro-French man asked to show proof of identity for ordering wine. No such request made of other tables. Case 1915. Guest overheard waitstaff using coded French phrases clearly meant to mock accents and outfits. Case 1920. Nigerian-American professor given plastic cutlery for convenience. Only guest in the room with it. Each case had been marked, reviewed, staff advised, no further action. I stared at those notes. Short, sanitized, cowardly, no further action. That phrase always stuck with me. It didn't just mean the incident was over, it meant it never really mattered. My thumb hovered over one of the report headers. I clicked it open and reread the guest's own words. I felt like I was trespassing in a place I had paid to enter. God, I knew that feeling. Intimately. I leaned back on the bench, letting the cold seep into my coat, grounding me. And then, uninvited, a memory rose up like steam from a dish left too long on the counter. 20 years ago. I was 25, fresh out of Columbia Business School. I had begged for an internship with L'Olivier, the predecessor to Maison Foster Paris. They didn't pay. They barely let me touch the food. But I had one advantage no resume could fake. I was obsessed. Obsessed with hospitality, with detail, with the sacred choreography between service and soul. But the staff had other ideas. They called me La Stagiaire Muette, the mute intern, because I rarely spoke. Not by choice. Because no one listened when I did. One morning I showed up early, eager to prep tables. The maitre d'hotel saw me in the front lobby and snapped, "Kitchen entrance toujours." He waved me around back like I was a stray. I had smiled, nodded, apologized. That same week, I was assigned to cleaning training, which meant 2 weeks in the dish pit, alone. The only person who treated me like I existed was an old pastry chef named Jacques. He once handed me a coffee in a chipped mug and said, "Don't let them cook the confidence out of you." But I did. For a while. I left Paris 3 months later, heart bruised but ego intact. And I made myself a promise, written in the margins of my journal. One day, I'll own a table they can't take from me. I didn't want revenge. I wanted return, not to relive the pain, but to rewrite the narrative. And here I was, 20 years later. The woman they called the intern was now CEO of a billion-dollar hospitality empire. And still, I was being told to use the side door. I closed the laptop and let out a breath that tasted like steel. This wasn't just about Eliza, or even Henri Dubois, the regional GM who'd signed off on the last staff review memo. This was about rot, quiet rot, the kind that smiles in meetings and signs DEI training logs, then whispers slurs in the break room, the kind that prints equality on napkins while reserving respect for only certain faces. A sudden gust of wind carried a paper napkin across my feet. I stepped on it, grounding myself again. I took out my phone and opened my contact list. Kevin Ross, my COO and right hand, was first. I didn't call him yet. Instead, I typed a note into our internal ops app. Initiate Paris protocol. Full lockdown. Staff roster freeze. Internal comms disabled until HR arrival. ETA 10 hours. I stared at the words, then tapped send. A second later, my phone buzzed with confirmation. I stood slowly, the kind of slow that meant I wasn't rushing, but the storm was. Tonight wasn't over. It was just beginning, and this time, no one would forget my name. The phone rang twice before Kevin Ross answered. His voice came through crisp and calm, the same way it always did, even when we were putting out fires halfway around the world. "Camille? I need Protocol Paris activated. Now." A pause, just long enough to register the seriousness. "All right," he said. No questions, no hesitation. That's why he was my COO. That's why he was the only person besides me who had access to every contingency plan we'd ever designed. "I want full staff lockdown. No one leaves their shift. No internal emails, no texts, no external comms unless routed through legal or HR. Pull security footage from the past 12 hours. And Kevin, tell London to reroute the audit team. They're coming here." "Got it," he replied. Then, softer, "Do I need to be on a train?" I hesitated. "Give it 2 hours. I'll call again." He didn't argue, just said, "Sending the access codes now. Stay steady." I hung up, thumb already hovering over the internal admin app. My fingers tapped out directives like muscle memory, system freeze, entry badge disablement for all non-executive staff, and a flag on Henri Dubois' credentials. Henri. The name still tasted like bitter wine in my mouth. He was the regional director for all Maison Foster locations in France. Polished, poised, and poisonous. The kind of man who knew how to smile for donors and gut subordinates in the same breath. He hadn't changed in 20 years. And yet, somehow, he'd risen. Like mold in a sealed jar. 8 months ago, I'd forwarded him a series of flagged guest experience reports. Discreet, professional, measured. Camille's email, March 3rd, 10:16 a.m. "Henri, I'm noticing a pattern in the Paris location's guest feedback. Several guests of color report feeling unwelcome, watched, or spoken down to. Can we schedule a training audit and update me on staff turnover?" His reply had arrived an hour later. Henri's reply, March 3rd, 11:23 a.m. "Dear Dr. Foster, thank you for your concern. I believe the situations described stem more from cultural misunderstandings than systemic issues. Paris is a unique context. We are, however, always happy to retrain if necessary. Let me reassure you, our team adheres to the Foster Standard." The Foster Standard. He dared to use my name as a shield. But he hadn't scheduled a single training, hadn't followed up, hadn't even acknowledged that every complaint came from someone who looked like me. I remembered our last in-person meeting at a conference in Lyon. He'd smiled thinly, praised my visionary leadership, and said something I'd never forgotten. "It's admirable what you've built. You bring something different to fine dining." Different. He meant black, female, American, unapologetic. But I was done interpreting code words. Now, I was rewriting the entire language. I stepped into a narrow alley beside the cafe, dialed again. This time the internal surveillance lead for Paris, a woman named Layla, whom I trusted. "Bonjour, Dr. Foster," she answered, half out of breath. "I just saw the protocol ping. Confirm?" "Confirmed," I said. "Start pulling footage from 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Lobby, host stand, bar, and kitchen hallway. Prioritize audio clarity. I want timestamps and don't scrub a second." "I understand. I'll need about 90 minutes. Take your time. Do it right." As I ended the call, the alley's side door creaked open slightly, one of the kitchen staff stepping out for a smoke. He didn't see me, but I watched as he lit the cigarette, shoulders hunched, apron stained with saffron and oil. His eyes looked tired, not just from hours of work, but from years of being unseen. This was the part of hospitality no Michelin guide writes about. The fatigue, the forgotten, the fear. I had once stood exactly where he did, on this very pavement, dish gloves still damp, wondering if anyone would ever see me beyond the apron. And now, I owned the building behind him. Funny how full circle rarely feels triumphant when the circle is drawn in chalk lines around old wounds. I stepped back into the street, the glow from Maison Foster's windows taunting me with their warmth. From the outside, it looked like everything was fine. Guests were dining. Wine was flowing. Staff moved with trained precision. But underneath, a rot had taken hold. And now, I was the one bringing the scalpel. My phone buzzed. Kevin again. "Camille," he said. "Staff lockdown confirmed. Dubois tried to override the badge control. I've frozen his admin permissions." "Perfect," I said. "And HR from London lands at Charles de Gaulle by morning. I'll meet them." Another pause. "Are you okay?" I looked up at the building, the one I'd saved from bankruptcy 5 years ago, the one that had given me my first scar, the one I'd promised myself would become a haven, not a hell. "No," I said truthfully, "but I'm ready." 35 minutes later, I stepped back into Maison Foster, not as C. Mason, not as the woman they mistook for kitchen staff, but as Dr. Camille Foster, CEO, founder, and sole decision-maker on every contract that kept this building running. I wore a charcoal gray pantsuit, clean cut, no frills. A thin gold pin shaped like a fork and feather sat on my lapel, subtle branding for those who knew where to look. My ID badge hung around my neck, clipped to a black lanyard with the embossed words, "Foster Culinary Executive Access." Eliza was still at the host stand. She saw me the moment I crossed the threshold. Her posture changed, but not to confidence. It crumpled, like a linen napkin soaked in wine. Her eyes scanned my face again, unsure whether this was the same woman she'd tried to redirect to the alley less than an hour ago. Her mouth parted slightly, then closed. She didn't say a word. I didn't either. Not to her. My heels tapped across the marble as I walked straight toward the concierge station. I found the assistant floor manager, a young man named Jules, who looked up and recognized me instantly. "Madam Foster," he breathed, almost a whisper. I'm calling an executive meeting," I said. 30 minutes. I need the general manager, head of service, front desk lead, and kitchen supervisor. Use the red protocol channel. Tell them, code violet." He didn't ask what that meant. Everyone in our executive chain knew what a code violet was. Internal audit, staff misconduct, immediate corporate presence. "Yes, madame," he replied, and took off like a shot. I turned and caught sight of Eliza again. Her hands trembled slightly as she shuffled menus, trying to look busy, trying to disappear. She couldn't, not tonight. I walked toward her, slow and deliberate. She lifted her eyes, tried for a smile. "Dr. Foster," she said, voice too bright. I didn't recognize you before. I'm terribly sorry for—" "I'm not here for an apology," I interrupted, voice even. "I'm here for answers. You'll join the meeting." Her face dropped. She wasn't expecting inclusion. She was expecting dismissal, but she needed to be in that room to watch the consequences unfold in real time. I turned on my heel and headed upstairs to the executive lounge, the same one where I had signed the acquisition paperwork for this location 5 years ago. Back then, Eliza had been a junior hostess on the verge of termination due to guest complaints about attitude. I'd intervened, recommended retraining, even signed off on a mentorship program with one of our top floor managers. I remembered the email I wrote, Camille's memo, dated August 14th, 2022. "Give Eliza one more quarter. She's young, rough edges, yes, but she has potential. If we're serious about fostering internal growth, we can't give up at the first flaw." And now, that second chance had turned into a slap in the face. She'd gone through the full anti-bias training, twice, completed the hospitality without assumption module, had even been assigned to shadow a manager of color for 4 weeks. None of it stuck, not where it mattered. When I entered the lounge, Henri Dubois was already there, seated at the head of the table like it still belonged to him. He stood when he saw me. That same slick smile played on his lips. "Camille," he said smoothly, "I was just made aware of your arrival. If you'd informed me sooner, I would have prepared." "We're not here for pleasantries," I said, taking a seat at the opposite end of the table. "We're here because your staff failed, again. And this time, I witnessed it firsthand." His smile froze. "I assure you, whatever you encountered was surely a misunderstanding." "Henri," I said, dropping a folder onto the table. "I have video. I have audio. I have 6 guest complaints with matching patterns. And I have a security officer who watched it unfold in real time and recognized what you call a misunderstanding as what it truly is: discrimination." He flinched, just slightly. Eliza entered the room then, quietly taking a seat 2 chairs down from Henri. Her face was pale. Her hands remained in her lap. "I reviewed your staff files this afternoon," I continued. "Eliza here has been through all 3 anti-bias modules, passed the evaluations, completed mentorship, and yet she still looked me in the face and decided I couldn't possibly belong through the front door." Eliza swallowed. She didn't deny it. "That tells me this isn't about training. This is about culture, and culture starts at the top, with you, Henri." His jaw twitched. "Are you accusing me of creating an environment of intolerance?" "I'm not accusing you," I said. "I'm holding you accountable. There's a difference." Silence settled like fog in the room. I opened another folder. This one held the printout of his March email, the one that dismissed my concerns as cultural misunderstandings. I slid it across the table. "You had a chance to address this 8 months ago. You chose to defend the optics instead of protecting the reality. You used my name to rubber stamp negligence. That ends now." He looked like he might object, but he didn't, not yet. I turned to Eliza. "You had a chance too. I vouched for you, put my name on your development file. You could have been a success story. Instead, you confirmed every reason people don't believe change is possible." "I didn't mean—" she started. "But you did," I cut in. "Because silence is a decision. Inaction is a decision. And assumptions, when they come this quickly, are never accidents." She looked down. I leaned back in my chair. "This isn't a court. It's a mirror. I'm just holding it up." The room was silent as Layla entered, carrying a black USB drive and a tablet. Her expression was focused, her steps measured. She gave me a small nod as she connected the device to the lounge's wall-mounted screen. Then she turned to me. "Footage is time-stamped and stabilized, Madam Foster. We enhanced audio range as well. This was the clearest angle from the lobby entrance." I nodded. "Go ahead." The screen flickered, then came to life. The high-definition security feed from less than 2 hours ago filled the room. The grainy elegance of the restaurant's marble lobby stood frozen in time, the entrance just visible. Eliza appeared at the host stand, adjusting her scarf. A moment later, I entered. Gray coat, travel-worn boots, small overnight bag in hand. No sound at first. Then the audio kicked in. "Excuse me, deliveries use the side entrance." My voice followed, calm, direct. "I'm here for a reservation." Eliza's voice again, cold and dismissive. "I think there's been a misunderstanding." There it was, the dismissal, the tone, the assumption. In real time, Eliza didn't look up. In the video, she never did either. I watched as Marcus appeared on the edge of the frame, hesitant, shoulders stiff. His eyes flicked toward me. Recognition, then silence. When the video ended, no one spoke. The air in the room had changed. Thicker, tighter, like we were all holding the same breath, but no one dared release it. I turned to Marcus, who sat near the edge of the room, partially in shadow. "Would you mind standing, Mr. Thomas?" He stood slowly, tall, composed, but his eyes betrayed years of quiet calculation. "Did you recognize me when I entered earlier tonight?" He nodded once. "Yes, ma'am." "And what did you do when Eliza turned me away?" His jaw worked once before he said, "I stood still." I let the silence stretch. He deserved that much space. "Why?" His voice dropped half an octave. "Because I've spoken up before. It didn't go well." I glanced at Henri, who stared down at the table. Of course it didn't go well. That's how rot protects itself, by punishing the ones who name it. "Thank you for your honesty," I said. Marcus nodded and sat back down. Then I picked up the second folder and walked to the screen myself. I opened the tablet and tapped twice. "This," I said, "was leaked anonymously to our HR channel 2 weeks ago. No one acted on it, yet." The screen now displayed a screenshot of a Slack conversation. The usernames were real. The words, unmistakable. Eliza. "I don't get why we're still pretending. The owner's never around. We do it our way here." A second message followed. Eliza. "Honestly, if they want diversity so bad, they can start by showing up once in a while instead of sending HR from London." All eyes turned to her. Her skin had gone pale, lips parted, breath shallow. I turned to her slowly. "I am the owner." Her mouth opened, then closed. "And I've been here, always. You just chose not to see me, because you didn't think someone like me could be behind this table." Henri cleared his throat. "Camille, surely this was taken out of context." "No," I said sharply. "Context doesn't excuse contempt, and we don't do things our way here. We do things the Foster way, or we don't do them at all." Eliza folded in on herself. Her shoulders slumped. She looked nothing like the poised hostess from earlier, just a woman caught in the mirror of her own decisions. She tried. "I was venting." "And you did it with confidence because you believed no one would hold you accountable," I replied. I turned toward the rest of the team. "This isn't about one person. It's about the silence that wrapped itself around her. The culture that let her think she could speak like this and still be safe." A voice cracked from the far side of the room, a whisper at first. "I'm sorry." Heads turned. Alicia, the assistant manager, stood. Her hands trembled as she wrung a linen napkin in her fingers. "I heard similar things, in break rooms, between shifts. I wanted to report it, I really did, but..." Tears welled in her eyes. "You get tired of being the only voice?" I crossed the room, handed her a tissue, and said nothing. Sometimes, letting people speak their truth is the loudest justice you can deliver. "You're not alone anymore," I said quietly. Then I turned to the table once more. "This was never about punishing people. It was about revealing who we've become. This brand, my name, isn't here to protect the elite. It's here to protect what hospitality was always supposed to mean, welcome." No one spoke. Not Eliza, not Henri, not even Marcus, who looked at me now with something close to hope. And in that silence, I made my decision. I didn't plan to tell them. I had walked into that room prepared to address policy, to enforce standards, to wield authority like a scalpel, precise and unemotional. But then I saw Alicia's tears, saw Marcus's restraint, saw Eliza unraveling not just from guilt, but from the shock of consequence. And I realized we were long past policy. What this room needed now wasn't another directive. It needed a truth. I walked back to the head of the table, laid my palms flat, and said quietly, "You think I showed up tonight because someone insulted me? That this is about ego? It's not." Everyone looked up. I was here long before my name was on the title deed. Henri stiffened, but I didn't give him space to interject. In 2003, I came to this restaurant as an unpaid intern. Back then, it wasn't Maison Foster. It was L'Olivier, a gilded, pretentious French fine dining temple with a wine list longer than its employee handbook. I was 23, fresh off the plane, hungry, not just for experience, but for respect. I paused, let that hang. My first week, I was assigned to polish silverware and sweep behind the pastry case. I didn't complain. I wanted to earn my place. But by week 2, it became clear I was never going to be seen, not the way others were. I turned to Henri. "You were the floor manager then." His face went still, but his eyes darted, like a man searching for an exit in a room with no doors. "You pulled me aside after a team tasting and said, 'Paris doesn't need your kind in haute cuisine.'" A sharp intake of breath came from someone down the table. "You told me to stay in the kitchen, where it's safer for everyone. You said guests wouldn't be comfortable with someone like me handling tables." Henri opened his mouth. "Camille, I don't recall. You don't get to recall. I do, because I cried that day, in the walk-in freezer, alone, with my apron still on and my gloves still soaked from dish duty, and you walked past me and didn't even stop." The room fell utterly silent. Then a voice, tentative but clear, broke through. "Was that freezer the one in the prep kitchen behind patisserie?" I turned toward the speaker, a young man, mid-20s, soft brown eyes, chef's uniform slightly wrinkled from a long shift. His name tag read Andre. I nodded slowly. "Yes." He swallowed hard. "My father used to work in that kitchen. Chef Pascal. He used to talk about an American intern he once found crying in the freezer, said he brought her tea and said nothing because he didn't speak English." My breath caught. Pascal. That name, that gentle face, that trembling porcelain mug filled with too hot Earl Grey. I had forgotten the tea, but not the kindness. And now, his son was sitting at my table. Twist, indeed. "Your father," I said slowly, "was the first person in this city to treat me like I belonged." Andre looked down, blinking fast. I smiled at him. "Tell him Camille still remembers." He nodded, jaw tight. I turned back to the group. I didn't build this brand to prove anyone wrong. I built it to create what didn't exist for me. A space where being invisible wasn't the price of admission, where no one had to prove they deserved to be seen. I leaned in. This room isn't just about Eliza, or me. It's about every person who's ever stood in a walk-in freezer wondering why their accent, their skin, or their silence was more important than their skill. Henri tried once more, weakly. "Camille, I have changed since then." "Have you?" I asked, not unkindly. "Because your silence tonight sounds awfully familiar." He looked away. I stood tall. From this moment forward, the culture of this restaurant changes, not incrementally, immediately. I pointed to Alicia. "You're the acting general manager. You will work with HR to redesign staff evaluations based not on hierarchy, but on lived experience and behavioral patterns." To Marcus, "You'll oversee a new training module focused on intervention, not just recognition, because seeing injustice means nothing if you don't stop it." To Andre, "If you ever want to design a dessert special, bring it to me first. Let's see what legacy really tastes like." The room began to breathe again. I walked to the window, looking out at the shimmering Paris streets, then turned back. I cried in a freezer because a man told me I didn't belong. Tonight I stepped into my own building and was told to use the alley. And still, I came back, not for revenge. I looked at Eliza. but to remind all of you that power doesn't come from being loud. It comes from being unwilling to leave things broken. The air in the lounge shifted from quiet tension to that sharp, unmistakable edge of finality. The kind that comes just before something falls, or someone. I pulled a stack of printed notices from my folder, each one stamped, signed, and dated. I slid them across the table like a hand of cards no one wanted to play. Elisa Marceau, Henri Dubois, Marc Villeneuve, Colette Desrosiers, Pierre Lamont. Effective immediately, you are suspended pending a full internal review. Your access codes have been revoked. Security will escort you out once the meeting concludes. Henri stiffened. Camille, let's be reasonable. I am, I said. For the first time in a long time, this place is being held to its own standards. Eliza's hands shook. She didn't protest. Maybe she couldn't. Maybe she finally understood what her words had cost. I turned to the right side of the table, to a woman who had remained calm, quiet, but unmistakably alert through every second of the meeting. Alicia Jean-Baptiste. She looked up, startled. Her dark eyes widened slightly behind her glasses. Yes, ma'am. You are now acting general manager of Maison Foster Paris. Gasps, real ones, even from the staff who had supported the audit process. Alicia blinked once, twice. I'm honored, but... No but, I said. You're ready. But I wasn't even considered last year, she added, voice tight with disbelief. Henri said my background didn't align with front-of-house polish. I nodded slowly. I'm aware. Twist revealed. I walked back to my chair and sat, fingers laced together on the polished table. I've read your file. You've worked here 8 years. Cross-trained in kitchen, bar, and floor service. Fluent in 3 languages. Holder of a certified sommelier diploma from Le Cordon Bleu. Alicia's mouth parted slightly. And yet, I continued, you were passed over for promotion 3 times. Why? She hesitated. I was told my accent lacked refinement. A silence, different from shame or guilt. This one was cold with disgust, settled over the room. I spoke into it. I don't need French that sounds like Versailles. I need truth spoken with precision. You, Alicia, are more qualified than anyone sitting at this table, including the ones no longer welcome at it. She blinked fast, but she didn't cry. That too was learned. You will report directly to Kevin Ross, our global COO. Your mandate is to dismantle the hierarchy that protects image over integrity. You'll assemble a transition team by end of week. Start with people who've been ignored. Alicia sat a little straighter. Someone at the back, a line cook who hadn't spoken all night, clapped once, then stopped, unsure if it was allowed. I smiled. Let them applaud, I said. Sometimes justice deserves noise. Alicia stood. She didn't make a speech, just said, "Thank you. I won't waste it." You never did, I said softly. They just never noticed. I turned back to the suspended staff. Your formal reviews will be conducted by a third-party ethics consultant from our London office. If reinstated, it will not be to prior positions. If not, your departure will be handled with dignity. But understand this. I leaned forward. Your silence built this wall. And today, it falls. Henri looked like a man unraveling from the inside. His legacy, his control, disintegrating in front of the very intern he once humiliated. Alicia opened her tablet, already noting directives. May I address the team, Madame Foster? Of course. She turned to the room. For too long, respect here has been confused with fear. That ends today. From now on, no one earns authority by volume, only by values. We will not build service by silencing servers. A quiet, yes, from a sous chef at the back. Then a few nods. Then a murmur of agreement rippled through the staff. Camille Foster was no longer the only voice in the room, and that was the point. I stood and reached for my coat. I'll return in 48 hours. I expect to see a draft of the restructured staff charter. All promotions paused, all grievances reopened. If there's a record that favors pedigree over performance, erase it. Alicia nodded. Understood. As I reached the door, I paused. Looked back one last time. This place carries my name, I said. But from this moment on, it carries your integrity. Don't trade it. Don't defend the old rules. Redefine them. Then I walked out. Behind me, I didn't hear applause. I heard rebuilding. The next morning, the dining room was quiet, but tension clung to the air like oversteeped tea. Maison Foster's flagship location in Paris had never felt more uncertain or more alive. Camille wasn't due back for another day, but the walls already felt like they were listening. Staff moved with a different kind of focus. Not fear, not pretense, purpose. Real, overdue purpose. At 10:15 a.m., a reservation name that everyone recognized appeared on the queue. Madame Colette Moreau. Longtime patron, known for her triple pearls, Chanel gloves, and monthly columns in a luxury lifestyle magazine that managed to sound elegant even when dripping with passive-aggressive disdain. She always dined alone. Always asked for table 3, the corner seat by the fireplace, and always insisted on being served by someone charmant, mais classique. Today, Alicia Jean-Baptiste stood at the host stand. Madame Moreau arrived, as punctual as the Eiffel Bell, draped in taupe cashmere and enough perfume to leave a trail for 3 city blocks. Alicia greeted her with a practiced smile. Bienvenue, Madame Moreau. Madame's gaze didn't meet hers. I requested Pierre, she said. Where is he? Alicia didn't flinch. Pierre is unavailable today, Madame. I'll be assisting you personally. A slight huff. As they walked through the dining room, Madame Moreau's eyes swept across the floor, and she paused, just slightly, barely noticeable to the untrained observer. But Alicia saw it. There were new faces this morning. Staff who had been hidden behind kitchen doors for years now stood in front. A young black server named Kemi carried espresso. Jamal, the Nigerian polyglot from dish duty, now stood at the water station. Carla, once passed over for being too quiet, now assisted with wine pairings. And Madame Moreau noticed. She sat down slowly at table 3 and murmured, My, this place is different. Alicia gave her the menu without comment. 15 minutes later, after ordering her usual, poached eggs, no seasoning, tea, not too dark, she pulled out her phone and sent an email to the general inbox. To Maison Foster Concierge. Subject, feedback. Message, Dear Management, while I've always enjoyed my time at Maison Foster, I must say this morning felt unfamiliar. So many new faces, so many new tones. I wonder if we're prioritizing diversity over dignity these days. Not a complaint, of course, just a reflection. Cordially, Madame C. Moreau. By 10:58 a.m., that email reached Camille's desk. She had just landed from a breakfast briefing with the HR team from London. Her assistant handed her a printout. She read it once, then once more. Then she stood. By 11:20 a.m., Camille walked into Maison Foster through the front door. No coat, no entourage, just presence. She spotted Alicia instantly and walked straight to her. Is she still here? Alicia nodded. Table 3, same as always. Camille didn't break stride. She moved across the floor with the kind of command that didn't need volume, just clarity. Madame Moreau looked up as she approached. Oh, she said, surprised. Dr. Foster, what a delight. I wasn't aware you were in Paris. Camille didn't sit. I received your note, she said calmly, and I've already taken action. Madame Moreau's brows lifted. I beg your pardon? Camille reached into her coat pocket and pulled out an envelope. She placed it on the table. In it, she said, you'll find a full refund for every reservation you've ever made here, tip included, and a transfer reservation to another establishment across town. Silence. Don't understand, Madame stammered. Is this about my message? I didn't mean anything by it. I've always supported Maison Foster. Camille smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. No, Madame. You've supported an image of it. One that catered to your comfort while muting everyone else's presence. You didn't complain when the servers were all pale and silent. But now that the staff looks like the world, suddenly it's too much. Madame Moreau flushed. That's not fair. I've invested years in this place. You've invested reservations, Camille said, voice cool, not respect. And your husband, she added, while a minor investor in one of our venture arms, does not influence front-of-house decisions. Twist landed. Madame's mouth hung open. You knew? I knew, Camille said. And I decided it didn't matter. Because this seat you've claimed for so long, it was never really yours. It was borrowed, from our silence, from our fear of offending power. Camille took a step back. Well, Madame whispered, then I suppose this is goodbye. Camille nodded. It is, and this time, the chair won't miss you. She turned to Alicia. Have security escort Madame to the car, kindly, but firmly. Alicia gave a slight bow. Of course. As Camille walked away, the dining room didn't gasp. It didn't freeze. It breathed. Because for the first time, the most entitled guest had been told, this house doesn't run on legacy. It runs on integrity. And this chair now belongs to someone who earned it. It was just after 2 p.m. when I stepped through the swing doors that separated the dining room from the kitchen, the threshold most guests never crossed. To the world, the heart of Maison Foster was its chandelier-lit tables, the signature wall of vintage wines, the velvet booths where deals and declarations happened. But I knew better. The real soul of this place lived in the back, in the clang of sauté pans, the rhythm of blades against boards, the whispers exchanged over steaming stockpots, and too often, in the silence of those who kept it running without ever being seen. I didn't come to inspect. I came to witness. The kitchen quieted slightly as I entered, though the burners still hissed. A few chefs looked up, startled. A line cook dropped his spatula. I raised a hand. Keep working, I said. I'm not here to grade. I'm here to see. I moved first to the prep station. Carla stood there, sleeves rolled up, fingers expertly folding chicken liver mousse into a chilled ramekin. She didn't look up until I was right beside her. Madame Foster, she said, her voice steady but wary. Carla. She wiped her hands on her apron, not nervously, but as though she were reclaiming control of the moment. I heard about this morning, she said. Thank you. I nodded. Do you know how many promotion recommendations I've signed off on for you over the years? Her brows furrowed. 3? 4, I said. All of them were stopped before they reached final HR review. Her face didn't change. That was what struck me most. Not surprise, just resignation she had learned to carry like another prep tray. Henri said I lacked polish, she murmured. Henri lacked a mirror, I replied. Then I pulled out a laminated version of our current tasting menu. I tapped on the second course, foie gras à la maison, a signature dish replicated across 3 countries. This, I said, was submitted by the head chef in Bordeaux, wasn't it? She hesitated. I was the one who created it, she admitted. He asked to borrow the concept for a seasonal test run. Next thing I knew, it was permanent, on all menus. No credit. Twist landed. My jaw clenched, but my voice remained even. I'm reprinting the menus this weekend. I'd like your name under the dish. Her hand trembled slightly. You'd do that? Not as a favor, I said. As a correction. She looked down, eyes glassy but unfallen. Thank you, she whispered. I moved on, deeper into the kitchen, toward the dishwashing station. Usually out of sight, often out of mind. Jamal was there, humming softly in Hausa as he loaded trays into the sanitizer. He didn't see me at first, or maybe he did. and chose to finish the cycle before turning around. Jamal. He turned, eyes wide. Madam Foster, I didn't expect... I know, I said. No one expects me to be back here. He laughed, but not unkindly. I just wanted to thank you, I continued. Not just for your work, but for the dignity you've kept while being overlooked. He tilted his head. You heard? I always hear, I said. Sometimes it just takes time to act. He looked at the floor, then back at me. I applied for front of house 3 times. I speak French, English, Yoruba, and Arabic. Thought it might help with guests. Your applications were rejected? No response, he said simply. One time, I was told my posture was too informal. Another, that my accent was inconsistent. I took a deep breath. What if I asked you to train new hires on guest engagement? I said. His eyes lit up. Me? Yes. Who better to teach how to make someone feel welcome than the person who's been waiting the longest to be acknowledged? He nodded slowly. I'd like that. Good, I said. Because you deserve more than a thank you. You deserve opportunity. As I moved toward the dry pantry, I passed by the cold storage door, the one where I had once cried 2 decades ago. I paused, hand brushing the latch, then stepped away. Some ghosts didn't need revisiting. They needed replacing. Outside, Alicia was reviewing schedules with a new rotation team. I caught her eye and gestured for her to follow. We walked back to the main floor together. I want a new wall installed, I told her. Somewhere visible, not for art, for names, contributors, from every level, front, back, floor, dish. Anyone who creates something lasting gets their name etched. She blinked. A wall of recognition? No, I said. A wall of visibility, so no one forgets who made this place real. She nodded slowly. I'll start sourcing designs. And Alicia? Yes? Let Carla write the introduction. Her smile was slow and certain. Absolutely. Because in this house, the hands that once worked in silence were about to be the first ones we celebrated. Change, no matter how righteous, has a cost. By the end of the week, 6 resignation letters had landed on Alicia's desk, all from mid to senior level staff. The ones who had coasted on pedigree, protected by tenure and titles, not by merit. Most of the letters were polite, vague, full of passive voice phrases like creative differences and unsuitable direction. Only one of them, Pascal Lemaitre, former wine director, was honest. I didn't sign up to be retrained by someone with an accent thicker than mine. Alicia handed me that letter with a raised brow. I skimmed it, smiled grimly, and placed it in the shredder without a word. Let them leave. Evolution doesn't beg for approval from those who benefit most from staying the same. But the departures weren't what caught me off guard. It was the envelope. No name, no stamp. Just slipped under my office door sometime between dinner service and my final walkthrough. I opened it, expecting perhaps a thank you, or maybe another complaint from a guest too polite to confront me. Instead, I found a single sheet of printed paper with bold black font. This is a restaurant, not a social experiment. Stop politicizing the plate. Typed, unsigned, but unmistakable in its cowardice. I read it once, then again. It wasn't the content that stung. It was the audacity of anonymity. If you're going to challenge change, at least have the courage to sign your name. I set the letter down and walked to the staff corridor. I passed the prep line, the locker room, the linen closet. Every room carried the quiet tension of a house mid-molt, shedding old skin, uncertain what the new one would feel like. In the back office, Alicia met me with her tablet. We've traced the letter, she said without preamble. Printer logs show it came from the H-copy room, timestamped during the 4 p.m. break. Security cameras? She nodded. Cross-referenced footage. It was Claire, one of the internal admin coordinators. Claire, mid-20s, smart, efficient, always the first to respond to meeting invites. never once late with a scheduling task. I'd remembered thinking she had potential, but potential without self-awareness was just privilege in disguise. "I'll talk to her," I said. "She's expecting dismissal," Alicia replied. "She's not getting it," I said. "Not yet." I called Claire into my office later that afternoon. She looked pale, lips pressed into a line, arms folded as if bracing for impact. I held up the note. "Recognize this?" She hesitated, then nodded. "I'm sorry." "Are you sorry I received it?" I asked. "Or sorry you sent it?" Her face twitched. I thought things were going too far, that we were losing what made this place special." "And what was that exactly?" I asked. "The refinement," she said. "The elegance. It's starting to feel chaotic." "What you call chaotic," I said, "is others finally being allowed to speak." She didn't reply. I leaned forward. "I'm not going to fire you, Claire." Her eyes snapped up. "You're not?" "No," I said. "But I am going to ask you to earn back the seat you nearly gave up." "How?" "Tomorrow," I said, "you'll address the entire staff. Not with a speech, with an apology, clear, direct, no justifications. And then you'll re-enroll in the full hospitality ethics and equity track, starting from Module 1. She blinked. "And if I don't?" "Then you've made your choice," I said. "But if you stay, you'll stay fully. No more half in, half safe. Agreed?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, I'll do it." The next day, just before lunch service, we paused operations for a 10-minute all-staff huddle. Claire stood in front of more than 40 employees, cooks, hosts, servers, dishwashers, and cleared her throat. "I sent the note," she said plainly, "because I thought I was defending tradition, but I realize now that what I was really defending was my comfort. I apologize, not just to Dr. Foster, but to every person I've overlooked, dismissed, or tried to silence, directly or indirectly." There were no cheers, but there were nods, and that was enough. Afterward, Jamal walked by her and said, "Thank you for not hiding." Carla gave her a polite pat on the arm. Even Andre, who rarely spoke, offered a small, almost imperceptible smile. Later that evening, as the dining room buzzed with renewed energy, I stood by the window and watched Claire assist Alicia with onboarding 2 new hires, both young, both brown-skinned, both excited, and I realized this was the point of change. Not to punish, to invite, not to shame, to reveal, not to break, to rebuild. Not everyone would accept the invitation, but for those who did, there would be room at the table. And this time, it wouldn't be reserved only for those who came dressed in entitlement. Wednesday evening came without fanfare. The reservations were full, as usual, and the rhythm of Maison Foster Paris felt more fluid than it had in months, maybe even years. Staff moved with quiet assurance. Laughter trickled out of the prep kitchen instead of hushed tension, and no one tiptoed around names anymore. They spoke them, clearly, with pride. At 6:47 p.m., a walk-in guest approached the host stand. Black, mid-30s, dressed casually in a forest green bomber jacket and soft black trousers. He had a small crossbody bag slung across one shoulder and a gentle curl to his smile. Not flamboyant, not overdressed, just comfortable in himself. Alicia greeted him personally. "Bonsoir, monsieur. Do you have a reservation?" He shook his head. "No, I was walking by. I'm in Paris for a few nights. Thought I'd give it a try. I know you're usually booked out, but..." She glanced at the list. One table had just opened due to a last-minute cancellation. Table 6, near the wine wall. "You're in luck," she said with a warm smile. "We'd be delighted to seat you." He blinked. "Really? Really? No mention of dress code. No double-checking of credentials. No delay." He was guided to his table by Kemi, who offered him still or sparkling water and explained the night's specials with the same care she gave a table of diplomats 2 nights before. The guest dined alone. He ordered the prefix with wine pairing, took notes on a leather-bound pad between courses, snapped only one photo. The dessert, a caramelized fig tart, inspired by Carla's grandmother's recipe, which had just been added to the new menu. No fuss, no drama, no title. No one knew who he was. And that was the test. 2 days later, the review dropped. No headlines, no dramatics. Just a post on a personal blog titled The Honest Fork. It read, "I walked into Maison Foster on a whim. No reservation, no name drop. I was tired, slightly underdressed, and visibly not what most would expect of a high-end Parisian guest. No one flinched, no one whispered. No one politely redirected me to the alley. They didn't care who I was, they just cared that I felt welcome. The food was elegant, the staff attentive, and the atmosphere real, not performative, just real. That's the future of hospitality." I read it in my office at 7:14 a.m. over black coffee and a rain-touched skyline. And for the first time in months, I let myself exhale without reservation. I clicked over to the blogger's About page, just out of curiosity. Name, Evan Ray. Location, varies. Profession, storyteller, eater, traveler. But as I scrolled down, a sentence caught my eye. "I also serve as a guest reviewer and cultural equity advisor for Michelin's emerging global evaluation board." I blinked. Twist landed. So this wasn't just any blogger. This was one of the anonymous Michelin judges who had been tasked with re-evaluating restaurants under the new Inclusivity and Culture Forward initiative the organization had launched earlier this year. He hadn't announced his presence. He hadn't pulled rank. He'd tested us exactly the way I'd once tested them. I leaned back in my chair, heart calm but beating with something close to joy. Not because we'd passed, but because we hadn't tried to perform. We had just been who we now were. Alicia knocked lightly at the door. "Morning, you okay?" I turned the screen toward her. She read it once. Then her hand covered her mouth. "That's him? From table 6? I nodded. "That's him." She sank into the chair across from me, stunned. "And we didn't even know." "That's the point," I said. "He could have been anyone. And we treated him like he mattered. That's what this has all been for." Alicia's eyes shimmered, but she didn't cry. Not anymore. She just breathed, deep and even. "Should we tell the staff?" she asked. "Soon," I said. "But first, let's let it be ours for a minute. Quiet victories are still victories." She nodded. As she left, I looked out the window. The rain had stopped, and for once, I didn't feel like we were fighting the weather. We were part of the sky again. The email went out at 8 o'clock a.m. Subject, all staff gathering. Main dining hall, 10 a.m. sharp. Note, no uniforms, no roles. Just yourselves. There was no agenda, no attached slide deck, no key takeaways. Just a time, a place, and a silence that invited something real. By 10:01 a.m., nearly every team member at Maison Foster Paris stood shoulder to shoulder between the velvet booths and the polished tables. Sous chefs in sweatshirts, servers in denim, dishwashers next to sommeliers. No hierarchy, no titles. I stood in the center of it all. No stage, no mic, just truth. "Good morning," I began, voice unraised. "Thank you for coming." Dozens of eyes watched me, some curious, some cautious, but all open. "I know it's been a lot," I continued. "For many of you, the past few weeks have felt like walking barefoot through fire. Change burns before it heals." A few nods, a few exhales. "But I didn't call this meeting to talk about policies, or audits, or even reviews." I paused, looked around. "I called it because I owe you a truth, one I've never said out loud in a room like this." The space grew still. "I didn't build Foster Culinary to be the biggest, or the most awarded. I built it because when I was your age, When I was wearing aprons with name tags that didn't match my ambition, I was told I didn't belong, over and over. I saw Carla's hand twitch slightly. Jamal stood straighter. Andre blinked twice, hard. And I realized, I said, that if I didn't write a different story, someone else would write it for me. And it would not be kind. I took a breath. I didn't build this to get revenge. I built it so kids who look like me, who speak like me, who dream in accents, wouldn't have to apologize just to exist in spaces that claim to be about excellence. Alicia stepped closer behind me, not to interrupt, but to hold the moment steady. I smiled at the room. You've heard me say that Maison Foster must stand for more than food, that hospitality must mean more than perfection, that we cannot serve the world if we're afraid of how the world looks. I turned to Alicia then, and gestured for her to join me at the center. Which is why, starting today, I'm stepping back from daily operations here in Paris. Effective immediately, Alicia Jean-Baptiste is your new official general manager. Gasps, then applause. Real, deep applause. Alicia's hands shook, but her spine did not. I'm not leaving because I'm done, I continued. I'm leaving because you're ready. And then I delivered the final twist. This, I said, was the last location I needed to see for myself. Silence. I've traveled from Tokyo to Toronto, from Lagos to London. I've walked into rooms pretending to be less than I was, just to see how people would treat me. Some failed, some rose. But Paris was the final test. I looked around one last time. You passed, not because you were perfect, but because when the mirror was held up, you didn't look away. Tears flowed. Quiet ones. No sobbing. Just the release that comes when shame lifts and dignity lands. My legacy isn't this building, I said softly. It's not even my name. It's you, the people I trusted, the ones who chose truth over tradition. I turned to Alicia. Lead them, not like me, like you. She nodded, voice steady. I promise. And I believed her, because this story, the one they had once tried to write without us, was now in our hands. As I walked out of the main hall, past the open kitchen, past the new recognition wall already etched with names like Carla and Jamal, past the front desk where Claire now trained a team of new hires with grace, I felt no need to turn back. Not because I was done watching, but because I no longer needed to. The story would go on, and for once, it would be honest.